problem.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting order 6 o'clock, according to that clock. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from July 24th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of July 24th, 2018, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Yes or no, Rob?
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting on August 3rd, 2018.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the special meeting on August 3rd, 2018, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So additions and deletions?
I don't know.
Anybody? Okay, your name, did you need a spot on the agenda? Oh, you're together, okay. Well, you're already on, so you're good to go. All right. Yeah, good job. I'll entertain a motion to take the agenda out of order and take members of the public first.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So, the floor is yours.
Okay, hi, I'm actually wearing 3 hats tonight instead of 2. I think I told Greg 2, but another one has come up as a result of our cemetery meeting that we just had, so it's more of a heads up type thing. But the first one is the Stone Arch Bridges, and just to keep it on the burner to see how we're doing. And I know Kurt called me, but I'm not really sure whether we're supposed to get together and go look at something or not, but then he's been on vacation and so forth and so on. In terms especially the recommendations of those emergency repairs that was recommended by Mr. Weitzner, Michael. And then we have been talking with a couple of different grant proposal people, and nothing's, I don't even think we actually have the application procedures, but one of them is a fairly substantial grant. And we're supposed to get a call from the local representative. It's through the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, if we were to qualify. But they've received a copy of the report that Michael did, and we'll just let you know how that's going and what they are thinking about. So anyway, it's just mostly to keep it here and up in front, so we keep moving. Unless there's any questions on that, I'll go on to the second thing.
Well, I think we did find out, our biggest question, since this is not a safety issue on that bridge, on the big bridge in West Townsend, we had asked Craig to do some research as to who was responsible for that, since it's historical, it's everybody's hats in the ring at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he actually found some answers for us that I'll let him relate, since he's the one that talked to the individuals.
The spotlight doesn't shine clearly on any one or any other, except that the select board obviously has the authority and the responsibility to do order up or authorize repairs to town infrastructure. That being said, the select board doesn't have engineers or highway commissioners or liaisons on its panel, on its board, and therefore has to rely on others. The Weitzner report is pretty comprehensive, but it hasn't been vetted by the state. Now, if you're looking for a very large grant to do the big repairs, which is going to get into some heavy technical issues and fairly large expenses of money, then when that grant goes through, or at least when it gets looked at, then I'm sure they'll fine-tooth comb their way through it. In talking to the state, however, they don't really much have an issue with what the Historical Society and Michael Weitzner have issue with, which is the undermining of the, I guess it'd be the northwest foundation wall at that tight corner there. And therefore, they're kind of not, at least down in Dummerston anywhere, Megan and Mark, they haven't come up to look at it, but they will here probably this week, potentially anyway. They don't really get involved in it. They send their bridge inspectors out, they've looked at the bridge inspection reports. As far as they're concerned, you can run a school bus or a dump truck or a cement truck over it, and it's fine. Therefore, anything that the board elects to do is kind of discretionary and willful, as it were. The issue that comes into play is if they do something at this point, at this stage, is it going to precipitate the need for something else to happen immediately thereafter? Is one thing going to open a door for many, many others? And secondly, is it the right direction? I mean, would the state engineer the same kind of repair that Michael will? So anyway, Mark Pickering and Megan Bronk, I haven't talked to you because you're on vacation, are both in one or the other or both. We'll probably come up and want to take a look under the bridge just for the sake of it. But they don't really have the authority, other than if the state says there's a safety issue, to encourage the highway foreman through the select board to get it attended to. So basically, with regard to emergency repairs, they're still on this kind of hold basis, probably for at least another week or 2 weeks until the next meeting. But the jurisdiction lies with the select board. They have the authority and the responsibility. They have counsel from Michael Weitzner that this should be done. The state isn't necessarily behind that in the sense of endorsing it or in authorizing it. They don't authorize it, but in the sense of having looked at those engineering plans and saying this is sound. So my advice to the board is that they're not ready. That's not the way to put it. My advice to the board is that they probably need to do a little more homework before and understand this better before they make a decision on it. Simply because I think they need more than one piece of paper in the queue. I know it's not that much money. It's a couple $1,000,
Well,
$7,000, $8,000.
There were some recommendations there, like the speed limit changing and,
Right.
and the weight limit changing that
Right.
had nothing to do really with the state. I would imagine that's up to the select board to decide whether they wanted to do that or not.
That is, and that I've not had a chance to discuss with the board or
Yeah.
discuss with Kathy. We've been, I don't know. Otherwise trying. I'm looking at the physical work because of the
Right.
time limitation. It's supposed to be dry in August and September.
Right.
And I know the water's up at least 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
That having been said, this would be the time to work between now and the end of October. If any work is going to be done, you're going to cure concrete, that kind of thing.
And then the other issue was that recommendation of cutting the brush on all the different bridges.
Those I don't
within-
think, though, in discussing with the board, I don't think the board has any problems with any of the other bridges. We're just talking about the back Wyndham Road Bridge
Right.
for those emergency repairs that have to do with the waterway and the foundation,
Yep.
where it's being undermined. But the Fairbrook Bridge, the Negro Bridge, the other ones, Stone Arch, Stone Arch Road Bridge. I don't think there are any issues with those, with regard to anybody's.
I believe there's still money left over from that grant, or that money that was
There
set
is.
aside to
Yeah.
begin. So that, any attention that you wanna do to those other smaller bridges, I would say, go for it. That money is set aside, so it's already been earmarked. The problem with the big bridge, at this point in time, is we didn't anticipate and didn't build any money into this budget to do anything to that bridge, even the small repairs. So it would have to be something that had immediacy to it to really go out and extend our budget. And as far as changing the speed limit and the weight limit, I'd like Kurt to address that, because that creates a whole different set of problems for the highway department as well. Not being able to go over that bridge with a truck, or clearing the snow off of it or anything
Or the
else.
snow blower as opposed to a plow.
Yeah, that-
Yeah, those are different policy issues, and usually with speed limits, they do traffic studies and all that. And I know Michael recommended that. It's easy enough to get Wyndham Regional and the Planning Commission involved in a minor traffic study on that. But I don't know that there are safety issues with regard to the speed, other than it beats up the bridge.
Vibration.
Right, it beats
The
up the bridge.
vibration.
I'll be honest, I live right there.
Yeah.
People slow way down to go over that bridge because it's so narrow.
Yeah.
It's like otherwise you're gonna miss
It's
it.
like putting a shoe on.
Yeah.
So I guess, because I'm a quite literal person in the sense that I'm going by Michael's recommendations, which were paid for. At some point then, I would like those points addressed back to the Historical Society, point by point of, well, this is in the process, this is not, we're gonna do this, instead of this, because I have to communicate this back to the Historical Society. And the grant people that we've talked to have all said, you gotta have a plan, which makes sense. They're not gonna give you any money if you don't have a plan. So, you know, we have to be able to have some sort of plan.
Well, you have to have a plan, but I also think one of the issues that we've got to be very careful of as well is the fact that whatever is structurally done to that bridge has to be acceptable to the state of Vermont as far as safety goes. Whether that involves an engineering study before you get into some type of a major repair work on the bridge, or, I mean, truly Vermont stamped engineering plans. We don't know how far that goes because the state at this point in time is saying the bridge is fine the way it is, you know, from the safety standpoint. So I think after
I'm not gonna criticize the state, but they don't deal with stone arch bridges. That's not their forte. Just like they don't deal with covered bridges. They have to bring somebody in that knows something about these special bridges. You know, and my expertise is in cemeteries. The state doesn't have anybody that deals with cemeteries. So they call somebody in that has, you know, knowledge of cemeteries when it gets involved with the project that they might be involved in. I think at some point, if we trust Michael Weitzner's assessment of what needs to happen, then we have to tell the state, this is what we trust. He's already said the bridge is not going to fall down. That's in the report. The issue is deterioration over time, and what he's trying to do is, you know, this is a heavily used bridge. And so it is special in the sense of, compared to the other ones. And I think I mentioned before, because you approach it from both sides coming downhill, that puts a different kind of stress on the structure than, say, the one in Simpsonville where you're approaching from the flat. You're not hitting your brakes, causing vibration with a, you know, I don't know how many trucks are going over there that weigh more than 24,000 pounds, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were some. And I don't know the difference between a 20,000 pound and a 24,000 pound truck anyway.
A couple of yards.
So, anyway.
well, again,
So all I'm asking is, if the town, let's say worst case scenario, the town is simply going to ignore those recommendations, I would like from the Historical Society for the town to tell us that in writing, that you're not going to do this.
But the board isn't there yet, which is.
Right.
And
don't
now we
have-
have to put
You're
it
going to
in
accept
writing.
certain ones and
Right.
follow through on them.
Right.
You know, we'd like to know which ones you're going to follow through on and so forth.
which ones are you talking about specifics for that one
The
bridge?
ones that Michael recommended be done before winter, particularly to the West Townsend Bridge.
Okay, so right now we're just talking about West Townsend. The
Well,
other bridges are off the table, so then.
The other, well, no, the other ones have the issue of the brush and guardrail thing and stuff like that, but as you say, they're not used like the West Townsend one is. So, anyway.
Well, I assume that we'll get some information back as soon as they do get a chance to come out and talk.
No.
I'm basically here to keep the fire burning, so to speak, you know.
Yeah, all my bridge records up there, I've had up there twice before, to look at that bridge.
There've been multiple people who didn't.
Yeah, we were up last
There was
fall.
V-Trans and.
Yeah, V-Trans and their historical preservation people.
Well, I guess my point is, we paid $3,000 to have a detailed study, meaning someone did more than just stand in the bottom of the river and look up at the bridge. And it was a professional that's highly regarded by the state of Vermont and the Preservation Trust. And, you know, I think his recommendations have some standing. So I think we need to respond to them in some way. And if we say, well, we don't accept them, then I think you need to tell me that.
Well, and again, if we have enough information to be able to say that,
Okay.
we can do that. Right now, all we have is we have the emergency repairs, and then we have basically a detailed plan that amounts to $250,000. And,
Based on his expertise and knowledge of stone arch bridges.
well, that's what I'm saying, and that's a huge leap to say, yes, we're going to go forward without enough information to even decide if we can take on the emergency repairs at this point in time. So as soon as we get some additional information, Kurt has a chance to meet with them, we should have at least a further understanding of what needs to happen with that bridge. And as I said earlier, as far as the smaller bridges go, the brush cutting and the rails, guardrails, that money's there. So anytime somebody wants to take on that project and want to hire somebody to take on that project, then just run them through here.
Yeah.
Because it would be a town employee on the town payroll.
Okay,
And we can get those other bridges taken care of.
okay.
So you said you had 3 hats, that's only 1 hat.
Well, that's one, yeah. The second one is, we're starting up the Hope in Action stuff for this year. Our meeting's gonna be August 22nd at the library at the usual time, Wednesday at 9 o'clock to plan this year's events. In the past, we haven't had an event in September. The first one has been the 3rd Saturday in October. But there's been a proposal to have and that's why Phyllis is here, a community-wide yard sale. And they would like to use the common on September 22nd to have this event. And the beneficiary of the event would be Community Hope in Action, to use the money for its programs during the year. So that's the request.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
And I'm not sure if we're planning to do a dinner. Normally we have a dinner too in the town hall. I spoke to Anita, I said, well, I'm not prepared to reserve the town hall for that day because we haven't had our first planning meeting. But I did ask her about the 3rd Saturday in October and then November, and she said there's no problem. And I would imagine the December proposal would be to support and participate with the horse parade, so there wouldn't be a 3rd Saturday event in December.
The only thing I'd just like to point out, being in and out of the town hall all the time with the dinners, I'm not certain who does the work or prepares the food and whatnot, but there needs to be a little bit more care taken in the kitchen because someone set a hot pan down on the oak counter and burned all of the varnish off of the top of the
Community Hope in Action?
It was right after one of their meetings. They must have taken something hot out
Nobody
of
told
it.
me about it, so.
I just would like you to, not
Usually-
knowing how it's set up.
Usually Anita, if there's any issue, they left food in the refrigerator, which they shouldn't have left. So she tells me about it, and then we deal with it,
Well,
but
you're welcome to ask her, because I was here the day she and I were trying to scrub it off.
nobody mentioned it.
But I'm just saying that however this works, however the protocol is for whoever does the food prep, that we need to be a little bit more
The food is usually
sensitive.
brought in, so it's not prepared here at all.
Well, but do they keep it hot in the oven?
Sometimes.
If
Or
they keep it
have
hot in the oven, yeah.
what do you call it, strip, out here with a thing underneath, I don't know what you call them.
Chafing dish?
Chamber, yeah.
Chafing dish?
Chafing dish type thing, yeah.
But it was just something that happened, and we just need to remember that from the standpoint of the building itself, being a historic structure, the last thing we need to do is have to strip out all the woodwork in the kitchen just to take care of the melted varnish.
Okay, I'll check into that.
But anybody else?
I'll jump in here just for a second with regard to the common. When I heard about it, I didn't know what the time frame was, and September 22nd is a ways away. When I first heard about it, I thought it was like this weekend or next weekend, something soon. And given what's happened to the common because of the fair days, I mean, it's gonna take a month for that grass to recover, if we can get out there and get it seeded, and if the sun ever comes out again. So it'll take. That having been said, for the common, there is sort of a policy in place right now for use of that. And one of the things is that whatever group is overseeing it will notify law enforcement, will notify rescue, and has a liability insurance coverage that can be put on file with the town. So that would need to be put into place, among other things.
So is there any discussion about letting them use the common for community type
No,
stuff?
I think as long as the policy's followed, I have no problem with it whatsoever.
So that would be open to citizens to set up a card table and
Yes,
how about that?
there would be a fee,
Phyllis,
you know. Well, I attended the one in Newfane, had one in July, and I thought it was well organized, so I offered to do this one the same way. So people would sign up in advance. If they sign up in advance, it'd be $15 for like a 12 by 12 foot space. If they wait till the day and show up, it'd be $20.
So they would sell what they find in their garage to sell, but
Yeah.
basically the fee, the $15 would be a donation, well, not a donation,
Correct.
but it would be a fee that would go to Community Open Action.
Yeah. it
And then they would keep their,
Whatever they
So
say.
Whatever
it's
the-
nice for people who live off in the woods like I do. You can't have a yard sale, you know, and everybody has junk they want to get rid of, and you like to make a
Stuff,
couple
good stuff.
bucks. Good stuff, good stuff. One man's junk is another man's treasure. But anyway, it would be helpful, I think, to many local people, especially at that time of the year in the fall, you're kind of cleaning out and getting ready for winter. So it's a good time to be able to have a yard sale. So I think it would be nice. They do it, I think, every year in Newfane, but I don't think Townsend's ever had one. So, you know, the one in Newfane was in July, so September, I think would be a nice time. The weather'd still be good. School has already been back in action and people are back from vacation, so. It's a couple weeks before the Heritage Festival and the Pumpkin Festival and all that, so it seemed like a good time.
Just to clarify, so you would only be using the common the one day?
Yes,
Saturday, yes.
yes.
So there would be nothing ahead of time, or it would all be cleaned up after the event?
Correct, everybody's gotta clean up their own stuff, and I would be there and, you know, would just put a thing where people
Yeah,
would
the
sign
setup
up.
would be that morning,
Yeah,
not
that morning,
not the day
and,
before.
you know, we'll make sure everything's cleaned up at the end of the day.
I'll throw something else into it just for consideration from your point of view and from the select board's point of view, because we've had this issue arise before. You might want to limit it and keep businesses out of it. If it's going to be for the people, then it should be for the people.
Right.
A caterer from New Hampshire would be a business. Well, these things happen all
Yeah.
the time, and it's real easy to say, sure, we'll charge you $25 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody setting up an ice cream stand who's professionally doing, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
don't know that that's necessarily wrong. I'm just saying that's something you should think through, because I think the board will think that through
Right.
as well. If it is gonna be just a grassroots,
Yeah.
from the ground up kind of thing,
Yeah,
then it
that's
should be for the people to use the commons.
Definitely.
As opposed to a legitimate organization that has an agenda.
We were gonna offer the sixth graders the opportunity to have a bake sale
Oh, that's a
table,
special interest.
because, you know, they're always looking to raise money.
Yeah.
So, you know, we would not charge them.
No, but I'm just saying, it's real easy to go off the track that way.
Right. But I mean, you know, it's the sixth graders, it's not a business.
Right.
So, everybody else would just be residents. They wouldn't have to be a resident of Townsend, but, you know, I'm sure it's only gonna draw local people anyway. But no businesses.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we allow, I'm sorry, what's
Open
the
action.
open action, to use the commons on September 22nd, after having complied with the existing policies for use of the commons.
Second.
Any further discussion? No, hearing none, all those in favor of allowing the use of the common on September 22nd, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes, so. As long as you
I
get,
assume that means there'd be no fee charged to Hope and Action for the use of the common?
now there are no fees being charged. That, I'm not saying that won't change in succeeding years. We're going to be working on a policy for common use.
My recommendation to the committee when they meet, I haven't talked to Phyllis about this, but like we do with the meals here, is we would make a donation.
For the common fund.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like we do here for the, when we have, because we take donations for the meals, so we always give some to the town.
That would be helpful because it does, the common is expensive to mow and to just maintain, and that's one of the things we're going to be considering. The common use policies, exactly what type of fee there should be or fee structure there should be for the different organizations that do want to use it. So that's something that'll be in the work this winter.
Okay.
So we can hopefully start the new year with something solid.
And in any event, accidents happen. And they happen with every event, and then they're minor and whatever, but a little scar on a tree, it adds up through time. And those,
Number 3,
Okay.
Yeah,
Cemetery Commission.
Okay, now we're going to totally off the rails. Okay.
Two things have happened that need to be brought to your attention. The first is I was approached by an individual in town who has a private cemetery on their property at this time, and they want to consider turning it over to the town. And they asked what they had to do, and I said, well, my advice to you is you check Vermont statutes. And in other words, I didn't really give them any advice. That property is for sale, and my question to you is, and I'm being a jailhouse lawyer here, my assumption that it would be you that would have to accept this as a gift if it was a gift, not the Cemetery Commission. So I'm just giving you the heads up that this may, if it comes back to me again, I'm gonna recommend they go to the select board. So that's part of it. The second part is another family approached me on establishing a private cemetery that isn't currently in existence. And those are legal in Vermont. And I brought them down here to the town office and showed them the file on cemeteries and how to establish them, and showed them the section in the statutes that deals with private cemeteries. So just so you know, this may come up in the near future. My assumption is they're working on it. So I'm the messenger in this case.
So that would be a private cemetery, the second one?
The second one would be private. Yeah, there are 3 private cemeteries in town here now. There's on the State Forest Road, the Cronin Cemetery, on the back Wyndham Road, the Jacob Cemetery, and at Abel's, the Abel Cemetery in their backyard.
do I understand that burials on your property, as long as they meet state code, are approved and authorized?
You have to establish a cemetery. You can't
Okay.
just go, yeah, you have to
You can't
legally
plant grandma?
It
legally
can't be a one-off,
establish
well,
a
I'm thinking
cemetery.
more of someone closer to me. But if I use the vault and I dig the hole deep enough, is it okay for me to put my?
There are guidelines for doing that.
Okay, all right.
But,
Important safety tips.
since Townshend doesn't have zoning, this
Well,
issue's come up about, normally cemeteries are covered in zoning regulations. Townshend doesn't have zoning, then the only thing that has to be accomplished legally is the health officer has to be involved. And then there are some other things, but if the health officer approves it, there's very little the town can do about it, other than to follow the statutes of what a cemetery has to have, and, do burial permits when you do a burial, and blah, blah, blah.
With regard to your former question about donating land, it would be the select board that would be in a position to accept a gift of land. My guess is that they would want the opinion of the commission with regard to that acceptance, and that may just be an
And
informal.
we discussed
thing.
that at our meeting
I'm just
today.
saying that if the
some-
request came in, they might like to have a discussion with you about it.
Yeah.
Prior to, because you would end up with the caretaking that.
So, anyway,
That's
it's
three.
number 3, yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm out.
No, you're out, okay, first strike, you're done.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and we will get back to you on the bridge as soon as we have some more information.
Thanks, John.
All right. Then let's zip through the warrants really quickly. I don't know if there's questions or not while Kurt's here. And then
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 1, amount of $10,527.46.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant number 1 in the amount of $10,527.46 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Before you go on, don't do it yet. I just have a question for you, Kurt.
Yeah.
And when you put the time down for the meetings that we had, can you tell me why one of you had a half hour more than the other one?
What did I have?
An hour?
Negative half.
Okay. No, I was more along the lines of Ed said it took him an hour and 1.5. Good.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 2, payroll taxes, in the amount of $3,792.28.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll tax warrant number 2 in the amount of $3,792.28 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 3 out of the general fund, the amount of $409.50.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 3 in the amount of $409.50 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I'll vote in the affirmative. Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 4 out of the general fund, the amount of $3,400.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 4 in the amount of $3,400 signify by saying aye. No, the big numbers down there.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
That finishes that, but the heating system is all done
Yeah.
with that.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 5 out of the general fund, the amount of $75.76.
There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 5 in the amount of $75.76 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 6 out of the general fund, the amount of $481.07.
There's
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 6 in the amount of $481.07 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 7 out of the general fund, in the amount of $6,731.35.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 7 in the amount of $6,731.35 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 8 out of the highway fund, in the amount of $1,370.84.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant number 8 in the amount of $1,370.84 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 9 out of the equipment fund, in the amount of $94,900.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Where's this money coming from?
It'll be coming out of the reserve account in Brattleboro. We have 140 in there right now, something like that.
This is for the
Because-
loader.
Actually, it's more than that. We have approximately 160. We raised $120,000 last year in
So we have
taxes
the
for
money.
the
And we
loader.
reserved it.
We set it aside.
Thank you.
And, yep.
Is there any further discussion?
Do you like the loader?
Yeah, well,
We should pay for it.
we should pay for it.
Oh, you don't want to send it back?
We haven't used it yet.
Oh, okay. All right, so all those in favor of paying equipment warrant number 9 in the amount of $94,900 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Don't want to get
Make a
it.
motion to pay check warrant number 10 out of the equipment fund, in the amount of $1,704.15.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, You got quite a few, I mean, when you're ordering, you got several days, like one right after the other. What
What are you talking about?
Napa.
Yep.
Where you just,
So what are what are we working on? Is it the same thing for the same piece? I don't know.
Any further discussion?
If we did oil one day on one truck and service another thing the next day, and we just, let's,
All right.
we keep one in stock of the filters in case we have a failure on one or something, so.
So all those in favor of paying equipment warrant number 10 in the amount of $1,704.15 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. All right, then moving on to the highway department report. Excuse me.
I called Basin up before I went on vacation, and I missed his call, so I never got, he left a message. I don't remember, we talked about they're gonna come pay me at some point, but I feel that they're probably behind on their payment because of the weather. Bruce Orchid, no show. I don't know,
I think he's been in contact with
he
Greg.
has been, I haven't seen Craig.
He should be here, Wednesday, and that's the last I heard from him, but he is there.
I've been calling, Fitzpatrick's, they did the paving in West Townsend.
Yep.
But I haven't seen them for crushing, and we unlock the gate every day, and then we lock it back up, just in case they want to bring their crushers in, so.
Okay, well, we need to kind of light a fire, kind of like light a fire in the rain, but yeah.
I've called a lot, talked to them. Whenever I see him, I talk to him, so.
Okay.
I make it a point to go see him, talk to him if I see him, so.
Well, the mowing shouldn't have a problem in the rain, and he didn't have a problem, he's just running behind as sometimes he does. Anyway, he did say he'd be here on the 15th, which would be Wednesday, and we'll assume that'll happen in another week. I can understand on the paving, with the wet roads and stuff. I don't know about the pit, I assume it's a little muddy down there, but that wouldn't have any effect on it.
And the only other thing, big purchase I'm gonna have, I gotta order greater plates again, so I'll call for prices and order, so.
And this time instead of getting, what was it, a dozen of them or whatever it was?
I get a set of 10, whichever comes cheapest. It is a economy of scale.
Did you get specifications for the one ton?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was simple. Simple sorts.
Some spec, you just give them to Craig.
Yeah.
What kind of a time, do you have any idea what kind of a timeline we're looking at and to have this?
We probably won't get this one.
You don't think it'll get it, so we're looking at
Spring.
spring?
Yes.
Okay.
Just, I didn't get prices from anybody because, but I
The
did
new
call.
model will be a
I
problem.
did call up Tenco and I did call up Fairfield and I did call Positives and I called the body shops and all the equipment places. And everybody's, because everybody, a lot of towns around wait till after the first of the year, the first, July 1st, to
Yeah.
get the ball rolling, right?
Yeah, I imagine the build times are a little long because everybody's trying to get in.
All right, is there anything else that we had for Kurt? Any questions? Anything?
You do have, there is insurance on the road.
Okay.
It's in your box, I mean, I know you're not, but, no.
So you can drive it now?
I'm trying to keep it clean.
Oh, it's paid for, it's got insurance, so we're good to
I
go.
do have to go register.
Oh, okay, that's true, get parts for it. Okay, well, thank you very
And,
much.
now, I don't know, they take a credit card at registration?
Nope,
No.
Check only?
No, I think they will now.
nope,
DMV? I
not,
think they only take
Can I get a
checks or
check?
credit card.
Yes, yes.
DMV,
Yeah.
you can go to Springfield, they'll take cash or a credit card.
They will, Springfield. I would go to Springfield, I'm not gonna go.
And you can give them a check, either way.
I don't know. I get a
And you're
check.
in and out of there in about 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, Springfield's great compared to
Tell them you spend all day over there.
All right, we'll do that.
okay, thank
Did we get a title with that? Do you have a title?
You won't get the title.
On the loader, I don't have a title for it now.
Yes, we would get a title.
Yeah, we would.
Yeah, because we paid cash
You
for it.
won't, if you paid cash for it.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna pay cash for
It'll
it.
take
And if-
3 weeks probably to get it.
Yeah, we haven't paid for it yet, they just approved
Yeah,
it.
we just approved the check for it
We'll
tonight.
get the check out tomorrow, hopefully get it cut. And,
Because if that doesn't have lien on it, being paid for, then you show your paperwork if it has lien, if you don't have to have a title, so that's right.
and I told Jim we'd look for the title for the 544 if he didn't get it.
That's
Because
something
he,
he never got it from me. 'cause I
Yeah,
don't
okay,
think
well,
so,
it'd be in the front office, so we can, but he doesn't need it, it's over 15 years old. That said, he should get it if we got it, so. But it is insured, so.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
All right, then, moving on to the town clerk. You should have all gotten a copy of the counter money. Excuse me. And then the treasurer.
I believe you have $590,257.56 in the sweep account and 30,000 in the checking account. If anybody wants to look at this, it's 9 pages long. You're welcome.
How come it's so big?
I got it in Newfane.
You had them punch it out, okay, got it. Well, you think we have enough money to pay the bills, we'll still pay it. Taxes coming in, all right?
And
Oh, yeah. I got 2 days worth of work for the bank on Wednesday.
Okay.
That's what I get Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
oh, come on. All right, the correspondence, we received our copy of our acceptance to be allowed to pollute the waterways in the state of Vermont from the Department of Environmental Conservation. Along with that, we also received a bill that's due in roughly 11 months for $1,700, I believe it was, so that we can pay to pollute the waterways in the state of Vermont. So this is an ongoing thing, and there's a list here on this sheet that gives us our timeline, right? Our timeline of what we have to do. Next April, we have to submit an annual report. Following year, an annual report. No idea what that is. Our plan on December 31st of 2020. An annual report in April of 22 and every April of thereafter. In October of 22, we have to apply for authorization upon reissuance of the MRGP. I'm sure that's got another filing fee associated with it. And then no later than December 31st, 2036. I can't even figure out how old I'd be.
No, it'll be Crystal and Rob will be the only.
Yeah. Demonstrate that all hydrologically connected municipal roads meet
And
the
Joe.
standards listed in the MRGP general permit. So Rob, that's your job.
I'm not taking it on.
No,
Joe will be here to help you out.
so that's what we're now into.
Now,
when
do we
born
have to
today,
comply
could
with that, or
conceivably
can
have
we
to
just
deal with
take on
that.
our own roads? I mean, we get back to this thing where we keep paying and paying and paying, just to
$2,000 a
pay.
year.
We have to pay the fee. I don't think there's any way around the fee.
Why? Were they gonna take our roads away?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I threatened to discontinue every road in town except for Route 30 and 35.
That's the state.
Yeah, when it comes back to, I mean, why do we have to keep going through these things?
Because basically what they're going to do if we don't comply with this is take away our highway funds.
And this is-
limit our access to
And this
grants.
is to protect Lake Champlain. So keep that in
Now,
mind.
water runs uphill.
It does.
This
Water
is,
runs
this is
uphill?
all Lake Champlain, conservation.
Well, it's also part of an agreement to protect Long Island Sound, because that's where it runs down.
We have a flood control dam that's doing that for free.
But anyway, that's the obligation that we're now into. Thank you, State of Vermont.
All in favor?
Of discontinuing all the roads?
Ooh, would you make a motion?
Yeah.
Hurry, second it, we'll be good. Let's see, where are we here? You all got a copy of the Vermont State Police, ticket report revenues
They
times.
really walloped it. You kicked it right in the butt.
Not during the month of May.
No.
They have been around a lot recently for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, I find it completely amazing that they could come up with $105 worth of fines in the whole month of July. I mean,
What did they come up with in June?
In June it was 1,100.
Okay. But it's the same revenue for
Right.
June and July. 400 and whatever it is. I mean, it's exactly.
$49.
Anyway, there's, yeah, it's,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, if you really sat out there and did a speed control, you could set up like a toll booth. There's so many people going fast. So it's like, to me, if a man came here and did radar control for an hour, you'd come up with more than $105 in July, and then in May, we had 0.
change the speed limit on the back London Bridge to 5 miles an hour. I bet you generate enough money to fix the bridge.
Could be.
Yeah, you just send your paychecks over to us every time you go home.
Nah, I don't have room to get going that fast.
You can't go that. All right.
Anyway, we do receive these on occasion. This one was a 3 month and I was like.
Are you contracted for 20 hours of patrol support a month?
It's not actually per month. It just breaks out to that. It's a set dollar amount, so it does fluctuate.
They annualize it and then they say it'll average out to so much per week, but if you look at May.
They're
they
kind of
weren't
under
here.
Yeah.
a lot.
They weren't here at all.
6.5 hours for the month of
For the
May.
entire month, that's an hour.
Well,
That's
it's-
only police enforcement.
But in May, it's possible they'd already run through their years because they're capped at 20.
Right, because that was the
We
end of
would've
the
changed
fiscal
that
year.
in July 1st.
May and
And
June.
July 1 is a new fiscal year.
Right.
Piss poor.
All right. And then we have a letter from Wyndham Solid Waste. I don't know.
That's an interesting read, I didn't quite get through it. Somebody can look at it because it is like a semi-balance, whatever 6-month report on their finances is, but their finances are in pretty good shape, generally, despite they've closed down the materials recovery unit.
It just basically says, there's a newsletter and it is attached for anybody. Did you all get copies? No.
No.
Oh, then I'll let
But
you.
that's available to anybody if they.
Anyway, please find an attached copy of the newsletter. As you will see, the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District has had a successful transition after closing our MRFP in 2017. We have expanded our food scrap composting operation and started the new solar energy program on our closed landfill. I would like to meet with your select board to discuss Wyndham Solid Waste Management operations and how we may assist your community manage and reduce waste to comply with Vermont's Universal Recycling Law, Act 148. Please contact me to schedule a meeting with your select board or if you have any questions.
Whitingham just pulled out of the district, just decided to cancel their participation in the district unit. Dover had considered it, they decided to stay,
Nice to see.
but that's part of what WSWMD is looking at.
Yep.
And if you look at the back page with all the pictures on it, it's quite a solar array.
There's no sense in reading it, because they'll change it in 3 months anyway, so.
That's true.
Has there been any indication as to whether or not we're going to get cut in on this solar
We
array?
didn't sign up for it,
We
because we
didn't?
already, no, we did not. We already had a municipal solar, we couldn't take any more credit, and we decided not to get involved in that. At some point in time, whenever that was. That was,
But those are two totally different things. We do have, well, of course now we've spread it out. As I say, at the time they were building that solar field, we had buildings in this town that were not
we had.
on solar.
I agree.
Solar power.
It would have been wise for some of the bigger institutions in town, the Leland, Gray, Mary Meyer, or whatever, to maybe get involved in that, because it was open to, I believe, some other secondary concerns. But as I recollect in conversation with her, we didn't want to get into, for some reason, we didn't get into that. Looking at it now, I mean, it's covered about 30 acres. I mean, it is a big array. It's the largest in the state right now, and it's generating some real energy. And some pretty good revenue stream for.
Quite frankly, there should be some kind of a payback. That for them to be, they're taking the revenue on that solar generation. Somehow that needs to either be an offset to our costs or be flowing to the town directly, one way or another.
Ought to pay the tipping fee for all the food we send them, if nothing else. Yeah.
All right. Well,
We can talk about that anytime if
Yeah.
you want, or
talk about
have
it.
Kristen
Yeah.
know it. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Is that what the 10-wheelers were heading down with, is food scrap?
Yeah, that's what they were heading down with.
All right, members of the public, we've already talked to Charlie. Is there any old business? Hearing none. You all got a copy of a letter from Robert Dowd. Along with a copy of his tax book. That is basically asking us whether or not we would like to rent the front portion of the old Janus Technology Building from him for a sum of $500 a month plus his abated taxes, which would be an annual cost of roughly $13,000. And we would be responsible for the insurance, for the liability on the building, and we would pay all utilities. Is this something we're interested in even considering?
I have no interest.
I have no interest.
Rob?
Is there a super cry out of the town here, out of the town hall to get that? I mean, where did this come from?
I don't know. It just landed unsolicited in
This from Robert Dowd has landed unsolicited. Anita didn't apparently drive behind it. It was in discussion with John Evans, chair of the planning commission, last fall, very heavily. Amongst members of the planning commission, it was something he wanted to bring forth to the select board at a point in time. It never materialized into that. I know he had a discussion with the fire department about potential use of the former Janus Technology Building. And he's been in communication with Mr. Dowd. I talked to John the other day, and he didn't instigate this. It's not something that he didn't know anything about. So apparently, Robert got this in his head and had been thinking about it, maybe just got his tax bill and thought this was a good time to approach the select board. But anyway, he emailed to Anita, this is why her name is on there, and then we had a hard copy arrive today, but it is addressed to the select board.
With a proposal, there's a proposal for you guys.
any other consideration.
I don't think we need the space or the
There is the need
Cost.
to consider future office space for the town hall, but I don't know that,
I feel like if we wanted, I mean, we do need more office space here, something that's a little more sequestered.
maybe
But we could-
I don't need a bigger office.
No, you just need walls.
Good. All right,
But I think that can be done within the framework of the existing building.
well, we just put a fair amount of money into the heating system for this building, you know, to take on the expense of another building utility-wise makes absolutely no sense,
No.
as far as I'm concerned. And on that note, we also have a proposal from Brown's Oil Service to replace the boiler in the fire station, and the estimate is $6,400 to do so. How old is that boiler?
5 years, I think.
5?
What happened to it?
Yeah.
Why did it,
Why did it?
Yeah, I
5
think it's 3 sections. The middle section's got a crack in it.
any sort of warranty after 5 years on it?
Well, they don't warranty them very long. Maybe a year at the most.
What caused it to burn out? Just use?
I don't know.
Check one plus down.
Could
Probably
we,
that rusty water.
Been drinking it for years.
I bet you ain't drank that.
oh, this is Kurt's.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is there any additional information on the boiler? I do know they need a unit. The question becomes, does it make sense to keep doing the same thing and we're just replacing it every 5 years to the tune of $6,400?
I mean, I think we at least have to look at if, we have to figure out what caused it. If it is the water, we have to look at putting some sort of filtration system in. If it's getting,
It's more than filtration though, it's the high pressure steam and the fact that the building is not well insulated, it's on
so it's
constantly.
running.
It's running constantly. And steam is just hard on any unit
Yeah.
at all. But it's not an on-off cycle. My understanding, I mean, I don't know any, Joe would know far more about it than I do, and he was there, when did you replace that? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that? That the cost of repairing it approaches the cost of the new unit, so, you know, it's like $5,000.
So what would be the cost of a hot air?
I don't think it can have hot air, can it?
Why not?
You're looking at all the ductwork. The cost of the hot air system here that we just replaced was about $7,000. But that was with the tank, the oil tank. You've already got oil tank, brand new oil tanks up there too. That was take out of the old furnace, take out of the boiler, take out 2 old oil tanks, drain them and take them out, all that scrap away, take out all the plumbing and the copper and everything that went with that. Make a new plenum for the new furnace that came in, plus the new furnace, hitch up 2 lines, one to the old furnace, one to the new furnace, power test it, hitch it up to the chimney, all that. But that was about 68, well, it was about the same price, about $7,000, $6,800. But it didn't include any ductwork. You'd need ductwork to move that around, but that's just plastic, 12-inch accordion, comes in a box. And you guys could probably do that yourself, I don't know, but I didn't.
Might be worth looking into.
Well, I don't know who asked him for the quote and how this is, he indicated that it wasn't a very efficient system up there. I mean, that's the big reason. It's a concrete block building. And it has to absolutely stay above freezing.
Yeah.
And I know in years past, the last 4 or 5, you guys have run through an awful lot of fuel. They've been cold years, but
Yeah.
things on constantly. And I know you've had some emergency repairs and some emergency fuel deliveries, as I recall, too.
So the question becomes, should we ask the fire department to, I'm assuming this is Brown, to have him give us a proposal for an oil unit to do the forced hot air?
And should we also be looking at possibility of making some insulation changes or sealing up the building?
There's nothing you
somehow?
could do to the concrete.
It's just because
building.
it's cinder block.
Cheaper to build a new building.
Uh-huh,
Okay.
except for $250, but, yeah.
Mm.
But if we could, get an idea of what it would cost to run the ductwork and remove everything that isn't essential to a new oil furnace.
Yeah.
I do know we'll have to,
Support that. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think so,
Make
too.
An educated decision about which option to go
Yeah.
with, but right now we don't even have a quote to look at,
right, not for that, not for
Right.
forced hot air.
No.
But the one thing we would need to do is try to expedite this before we get into closer
Cold weather,
heating
yeah.
systems, because then they're not gonna have time to be able to do it, so.
I believe this quote is for an exact same replacement of what's already there.
Sounds like it.
My understanding on it.
Yeah, if we could just get Browns to give us a proposal for an alternative,
Twisting,
longer lasting, yeah. Something less fragile. I assume you already have one of these. Just need another one.
so is that something that you can work with Glenn on, or should someone of
I
us?
can certainly broach it. I just gave Joe a copy, but I can certainly give Luann a call and say that the board would like a little more information, maybe on alternatives in terms of pricing. And if anything else is more attractive than simply replacing. the
Well, one way to get away from the rusted water is to go with the forced hot air.
Right.
And
I don't even know,
Modine heaters work really,
Do
really
we
well.
really need to have ductwork put throughout the whole entire place, or could we have a series of ductwork, kind of exterior duct, not exterior to the building, but not set into the walls and all the other stuff?
Yeah, surface, not built in.
If you could
I
contact
can certainly make an effort.
Glenn and just see if there is something else other than just planning on doing a 5-year replacement cycle on that boiler. Okay, now what do we got here? Oh, AT&T, oh. Again, out of the blue? Let's see, Rob, you were with me. The last time we talked about cell towers? And remember, it just kind of died in the vine?
Yep.
Guess what? It's back.
Cool.
This is a proposal to transfer part of the certificate of public good from AT&T to an independent contractor out of North Carolina to actually build a tower on Otto Tarbell's property, which is where the original AT&T tower was sited. It's to...
It's up on the hill behind the library. That's the very top of it.
We're up here. It's part of the whole, I want to phrase it right.
First,
No, it's not first light. It is part of the first net,
first,
the emergency,
Preparedness.
yes. So, this is, I guess the governor awarded to the state's contract to AT&T. This would be our entry into that system, that emergency response system
Okay.
that they're proposing to build across the country. That we don't really have a seat at the table unless we wish to take issue with the transference of the certificate of public good. But it doesn't have the same restrictions, at least what's being proposed here. It does not have the same restrictions that we originally had put on the AT&T tower. One of those was a fenced-in area at the base of the tower to keep people from accessing it.
Yeah.
We'd also talked to the fire department, wanted to, and the highway department, install radio transmitters on that tower, which they do allow you to do, and that's no longer in there. I don't know whether we're
well,
starting
at least it's
fresh.
not in this sighting, so I mean, it is back in the original schematics and engineering. Those were discussion points that the board was very concerned about. One is the security of the unit itself.
Yeah.
People don't go up there and climb it.
Climb it, right.
Right. Also was working with first responders on aerial recovery or whatever you call that, in case you get somebody up there who gets stranded or is threatening. And the third part of that was maybe piggyback something onto the tower itself, because it's not going to be overcrowded, but something which would allow our highway department to talk to the fire department. These things are changing on a constant basis, and 4 years ago isn't what it is now.
Right.
But a lot of that seems to have. Principals at 18, you were here, the vice president of Regional Lot came in here and said, we're out of here. We can't seem to come to a lease agreement and, kind of screw you. And it was a
No,
rough-
we didn't have the money to build the tower.
well, it wasn't in their market profile
Right.
at the moment kind of thing. Or whatever. But it was pretty rude and it was pretty abrupt, and it was, everybody in town had been informed by them and by us that this was a go. We did the trial balloon. I mean, everybody was happy. And then all of a sudden it was pull out because they, without apology, without any kind of advancement, without any follow-up. And now 4 years later, 3.5 years later, they're back in front of the Public Service Board. So anyway, we may indeed end up with a cell tower in town.
So
Okay.
anybody who wants to take a look at the multi-page document is welcome to do so. Let's see, is there any need?
It's available electronically.
Is
Yeah,
there,
if you could email it to me, that would be helpful. Thank
is
you.
there any additional need for an executive session?
I don't know.
I don't have any.
Any other business? We will resume going back to our Tuesday meetings on August 28th. That is also the night we're supposed to have our drawing for the
Right.
lottery. Those notices are now appearing in the papers.
You should have a copy of it. I think I gave
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
you. Of how it's worded anyway.
Yeah.
And we're hopefully going to have some interest. There will be an open house the Saturday before that meeting. It's the 25th, for people to be able to access the property and take a look at what is there, what they're facing. I can't think of anything else that's relevant to that.
Did we set a time for the open house?
It hasn't been officially announced, but we will set probably 10 o'clock. Something like that. Whether then,
Yeah.
if we can find some leftover hamburgers and potato salad, we'll cater.
There's no potato salad left, Judge. You can have the hamburgers and hot dogs. I got plenty of those.
Just run across to the diner and get some lunch.
So if there's no other business, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:05.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.